When you were a kid, were you ever scared of what's under the bed or in the closet? This story is about what's under the covers. Welcome to English Coach 3Ts. I'm Tanya. This story happened right around Christmas time, just 5 to 7 years ago, and I had been in the living room enjoying the twinkly lights when I decided to make a little palette on the floor for myself. And if you've been here before, you know that when you see words or phrases on the screen, especially those that are in all capital letters, I'm going to give you a short English lesson at the end of the video to help you understand them more. And if you're new here, welcome. I'm looking forward to chatting with you in the comments. After sitting in the rocking chair enjoying the twinkly lights in the living room, I decided to retire to my little pallet that I had put on the floor. And I was sleeping there quite comfortably in the middle of the night when I had that feeling none of us ever wants to feel. I was there under the covers and I felt something crawling on the skin of my leg. And my first thought when I was kind of lying there asleep was, I'm imagining it. It can't be something on my leg. I'm sure I'm imagining it. And then I thought, no, I think it's something on my leg. And so I reached down under the covers and brushed it off, but there was nothing there. So I kind of brushed it like this and nothing there. Lifted the covers up so that I could see what was there. Nothing there. Of course, it was dark. And decided, okay, it's all good. I'm going to go back to sleep. And before being able to fall back asleep, I felt that creepy, crawly feeling again. And I was like, oh my gosh, I know I feel something crawling on my leg. And this time I took a completely different approach. I grabbed the covers and I yanked them off, and there, crawling up my leg, was a scorpion. I kid you not. And I had a total knee-jerk reaction. I just flicked it off with my hand without even thinking it. The scorpion went flying across the room. I jumped out of bed so quickly. I'm pretty sure I've never gotten out of bed that quickly. And I grabbed a shoe and I had to slam that shoe on the scorpion 8 times before it stopped moving. Now, if you are a scorpion lover, I hope that I haven't offended you, but I wasn't thinking. It was something that happened in a panic-stricken moment when the only thing I could think of was, don't get stung by the scorpion. The good news is that I was totally fine and I didn't get stung. When I called the exterminator, they didn't believe me. I told them the story I just told you, and they didn't believe me. They were like, that's impossible. The first time you brushed at it, it would have stung you. I was like, well, it didn't. And then when you flung the blankets like that, it for sure would have stung you. And I was like, it didn't. And then when you flicked it off your leg, there's no way you could have done that without being stung. But I didn't get stung, so that's the good part of this story. Do you remember a time when you felt so panicked that you did something with a knee-jerk reaction? Let me know in the comments below. Now I want to share some of the words and phrases that might be new to you from this story. And once you've heard them and gotten a good idea of their meaning, go back and listen to the story again and see if you've already improved your ability to understand. So one of the first things I said was that I made a little palette for myself on the floor. When we say we made a little pallet, we just mean we put some blankets and pillows on the ground for someone to sleep there. Often this is something we do for a child who's scared and wants to sleep next to the bed in their parents' room. And then I said right after that that I retired to the pallet. Usually when we say someone is retiring, we mean that they are no longer working. They have been working for many, many years, and they're going to retire and stop working and enjoy the rest of their life traveling or doing whatever they want. In this case, when I said I'm going to retire to the pallet, it meant I'm just going to go to bed, go to sleep on the pallet. I wanted to point out a couple of really common phrasal verbs that you may already understand, but to encourage you to practice them so they become more of a natural part of your conversations. The first one was when I said I brushed it off, meaning whatever was crawling on my leg. To brush off just means like that, to make this motion to get something off, to remove something. You might brush something off of your clothes or brush some dust or something off the table. We use this word quite a bit. And then I said I lifted up the covers so I could look under to see what was crawling on my leg. And I referred to a creepy, crawly feeling that I was actually having on my leg. Now you know from the story there was something crawling on my leg. But sometimes we talk about a creepy, crawly feeling as just a really bad feeling. And often we refer to bugs or insects as creepy, crawly things. Creepy referring to something we don't like, and crawly because they're crawling. I said I took a completely different approach when I yanked the covers off. I could have said I took a completely different tactic, which is the same thing as saying a completely different approach. And the word to yank is a very good way to say to pull on something quickly and maybe very strongly. You'll hear people say this, like if a little girl gets her hair yanked on the playground at school. This is not a good thing, but it gives you the idea of what's happening. When I finally told you that there was a scorpion crawling on my leg, I said, I kid you not. This is the same thing as saying, I'm not kidding. It's just stronger. It's emphasizing that I am telling you the absolute truth. And then I said I had a knee-jerk reaction. A knee-jerk reaction comes from the literal meaning of when you go to a doctor and you sit on the table at the doctor's office and they kind of hit on your knee with something and your knee has a reaction. Espy's having a reaction. Your knee has a little reaction and kicks up like this. It's not something you are in control of. That's the literal meaning. But we use this as an idiom when we mean that we had a reaction. We didn't think about something. We just immediately did something without thinking. This was my knee-jerk reaction. The knee-jerk reaction that I had in the story was to flick the scorpion off my leg. We flick something off when we remove it quickly or by brushing it quickly. I've been thinking of this lately because I talked about it in one of our WSB, Women Speak Better classes, and I've been paying attention to when I flick something. And you can flick something off like I did with the scorpion, or you can flick something off your finger like this, which I noticed I do when I'm cooking. If I get a very tiny piece of vegetable or something when I'm chopping in the kitchen, I'll flick it off like this. Or you might flick it off a plate or something else. You might flick it off your shoulder. This is a great word to use when you want to say you removed it or even you brushed it off, but you want to be more specific that you did it in a quick manner. I said that when I flicked the scorpion off my leg, it went flying across the room. And in this case, the scorpion literally flew across the room. We use this phrase to say something happened very quickly. So literally, like in my story, or Maybe it's just somebody moved quickly. For example, you could say, when the students' science project started to blow up, the teacher flew across the room towards them. We just mean the teacher came very quickly because he or she didn't want the students to get hurt. I said that I killed the scorpion in a panic-stricken moment. Panic meaning that I was so scared I wasn't thinking, I just did something. It's a little bit like a knee-jerk reaction, but add in some fear. You may have heard me talk about another time that I was panic-stricken when I had an incident with my daughter in the store. If you want to hear more about that story, I'll link that one below here. Can you think of a time you've been panicked or you've been panic-stricken and you did something without thinking? I think most of us have felt that way at one point or another. And the last word I want to help you with is to get stung. I said that I wasn't stung by the scorpions. Scorpions have a tail like this, and they sting with their tail, much like a bee stings with its tail. You could say the scorpion bit you. Sometimes you'll hear people say, I was bit by a scorpion, and we totally understand what you mean. But to be more specific, you could say stung by a scorpion or a bee. You can get bit by an animal like a dog or a cat, or even a bug like a spider, or even a human. I hope that some of these words and phrases are helpful for you. Don't forget to go watch the video again and see if you can understand more this time. And if this was helpful for you, it's very helpful for me if you share this video with other friends who'd like to be fluent in English. Give us a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any more English lessons like this one. If you're ready to see another English lesson where you can learn vocabulary and phrases in context, give this one a try. Or if you want to try something a little different, give this one a try. And I'll see you there. Bye.